All right, let's talk about one of the most frustrating feelings for any creative person. You're an absolute machine at your day job, getting things done, but when it comes to your own passion projects, you're completely stuck. If that sounds painfully familiar, then you're in the right place. We're going to break down why that happens, show you it's not some personal flaw, and give you a whole new operating system to get things moving again. So let's press start and dive in. I mean, seriously, does this sound like you? You know you're smart, you know you're capable. At work, when there's a system, you crush it. But the second you sit down to work on your own thing, that novel, that script, that side hustle, it's like you hit an invisible wall. It's this crazy paradox that can make you question everything, right? Your talent, your discipline. But what if I told you this has nothing to do with you failing? It's the system that's failing. So to really get this, we need a simple but powerful analogy. The unplugged coffee maker in a forest. Yeah, I know, it sounds a little weird, but stick with me. This is the key to diagnosing what's really going on. It's not a problem with you, the machine. It's a mismatch with your environment. Okay, so at your job, you're like a top-of-the-line coffee maker plugged into this huge, powerful grid. That grid is a whole system of external forces. Your boss's deadlines, your colleagues' expectations, tasks that are already clearly defined for you. That system is so strong, it forces you to be productive. No matter how you're feeling on the inside that day, you just make the coffee. But then you clock out. You take that same awesome coffee maker home to work on your passion project. But you leave the entire power grid behind. All of a sudden, you're standing alone in the middle of a forest with no outlet, no power source. And in that quiet, in that vacuum, your internal feelings, your doubts, your anxieties, your little frustrations, they become the only thing you can hear. And you start thinking a moment of frustration means your whole idea is garbage. So, and this is the most important part, your machine isn't broken. You're not broken. The process is flawed. At work, strong external constraints just steamroll right over your internal feelings. At home, those supports are gone, and your internal state gets to be the boss. But here's the good news. A flawed process can be fixed. It can be redesigned. So to fix this, we have to stop trying to just muscle our way through it with willpower. That's a losing battle. We need to get smarter. We need to engineer a better system for ourselves. And that is exactly what we're going to build today. It's called the Trigger, Write, Repeat framework. And it's all about reframing creative work, not as some mystical lightning strike, but as a trainable skill, a game with rules you can actually learn to win. First things first, we've got to throw out a useless myth. Writer's block isn't a real thing. It's just a spooky name we give the problem that makes it feel impossible to solve. What you're actually dealing with is something called conditional writing. It's the belief you've learned that you can only create when the stars align and everything feels perfect. And just calling it by its real name, that's huge. It turns this big, scary monster into a simple engineering problem we can solve. So, this new operating system, this game we're going to learn, has 3 core levels to master. First up is Trigger, where we design our creative habit. Level 2 is Write, where we actually master the skill of getting words on the page, no matter what. And finally, Level 3 is Repeat, where we learn to build a practice that actually lasts. Let's tackle them one by one. Okay, jumping right into Level 1. This whole stage is about shifting your mindset from being a writer to being a designer. The goal here isn't to force yourself to write. No. It's to engineer an entire ecosystem where writing becomes the most natural, obvious, and easy thing to do. Think of it like this, an ecological approach. If your environment is chaotic, filled with little distraction monsters like your phone buzzing and a dozen browser tabs open, it's designed to make you procrastinate. But a thoughtfully designed ecosystem, a clean, safe zone, is designed for focus. We want to make creativity the path of least resistance. And you do this by shaping 3 kinds of constraints. For yourself, your individual state, you build resilience, you cultivate this war correspondent mindset that lets you write anywhere, under any condition. For your environment, you use what's called choice architecture to make writing the easiest option, like literally putting your phone in another room. And for the task itself, you stop staring at the huge mountain and you just break it down into one tiny, manageable step for today. Okay, on to Level 2. So you've engineered your environment to trigger the habit. Now we need to master the actual skill of getting words on the page, fluently and on demand. This is all about achieving unconditional output. And this, right here, is the #1 cognitive trap that stops us. It's called the hypervigilance loop. This should feel familiar. You try to write a perfect sentence, but then you immediately go back and edit it, and then you rewrite it. The snakehead of editing is literally eating the snake tail of your forward momentum. You can spend an entire hour on one single paragraph and then walk away feeling totally defeated. You're just playing the game on the wrong difficulty setting. The way out of this perfectionism trap is to realize you have to consciously separate the two games a writer plays. When you are drafting, you are only playing the belief game. Your one and only goal is forward momentum. You embrace the messy, you let the words flow. Later, much later, during revision, you can switch modes and play the doubting game. That's when you get to be a ruthless critic. The secret is, you just can't play both games at the same time. All right, we've arrived at the final level. You've designed your world, you're generating words, but none of that matters if you never, ever finish. This level is all about building the habit of completion, because finishing is the fuel that powers this entire creative engine. And for so many of us, this is the final boss, the grandiose plan. The project seems so huge, so important, that it just becomes this intimidating monster. It paralyzes you before you even start, and it creates a timeline that just stretches out forever. We have to learn how to defeat this monster. And this is how you beat that boss. It's a really smart method called Shape Up, and it completely flips the script on how we normally plan things. Instead of letting a huge scope create an infinite timeline, you start by fixing the time. You define your appetite. You say, I have 6 weeks for this draft. And that fixed container of time forces you to shape a realistic scope of what you can actually get done. And you know what? That's how projects actually get finished. And finally, the habit of publishing. Now, before you panic, publishing doesn't have to mean a bestseller. It could be a blog post, a short story you email to 5 friends, an article on Medium. The point is, writing into a total void is just not sustainable long-term. Publishing in any form gives your work purpose, it creates accountability, and it closes that feedback loop, which is what refuels you for the next creative cycle. So, let's tie all of this together. The journey we just went on, from level 1 to level 3, it really requires one fundamental shift in how you see yourself. You're not a powerless character in this story, just waiting around for inspiration to strike. You are the game designer. Look, you're not broken. You were simply unplugged. By seeing the system's mismatch and installing this trigger, write, repeat framework, you can build your own power source. You can engineer a creative life that actually works for you. So stop being a character in someone else's story about what writing should be. Pick up the pen, become the author of your own story.